So that game's going to suck. The Chargers and Cowboys game should be interesting. And then the
Do
Vikings.
you guys know where the door behind the curtain leads?
It leads out to the hallway.
You know, like the doors and like the stairwell.
That's not as exciting as I thought it would be.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are going to win.
That's like the approved answer. Hello and welcome to another episode of SportsZone. We are starting as we always do with the important stuff. Studio 90. I'm joined by Jessica and Aaron as usual, and we're transitioning from last week where we sort of talked about the World Cup back into league action. It's come thick and fast this past week, and a lot of things for us to break down and talk about. We will start in the English Premier League, where there's some interesting stories shaping up as the fixtures sort to come a little bit quicker in the next couple of weeks. We'll start with a return of a player from injury, Paul Pogba from Manchester United. They sort of have been not necessarily struggling as they're still in the top four and still in second place in the table right now, but sort of a departure from their form when he was out injured. So Aaron, they were able to be victorious on his return over the weekend against Newcastle. Do you think having Paul Pogba back in the lineup sort of rejuvenates Manchester United and we won't see them maybe struggle as much as they have?
It definitely rejuvenated them. You could see the difference between when Paul Pogba was on the pitch and when he's not on the pitch. Throughout the past couple months, there's been a lot of talk about Lukaku being on a goal drought and sort of people criticizing him. But I think the fact is that Lukaku wasn't getting the service necessary in order to score goals. And I think when Pogba came into the fold, it just showed that he was creating chances, controlling that midfield, and he makes such a difference for this team. So, they've been struggling for the past 2 months relatively for Man United standards. Because Paul Pogba's been out, but now that he's back, and also Zlatan Ibrahimovic being back, a guy who maybe is not his old self, but can still definitely provide something, is definitely going to have Man United kick on, and I can see them challenging City for the title. You
mentioned City, who the noisy neighbors are at the moment 8 points clear of everyone on the table, still undefeated in the league, playing scintillating form. They were able to score 4 more over the weekend. Leroy Sané, Raheem Sterling, Gabriel Jesus, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, all in really great form right now. But Jessica, you don't win the league necessarily in October, September, and November. You win the league in May, and May is a long way away. So the type of form and the type of performances Manchester City's putting in, do you think it's sustainable as we sort of get into these festive fixtures where they play games a lot quicker and there's a lot quicker turnaround?
Yeah, definitely. Also, I think that because they're in such a great spot right now going into the games that matter more, I think that they'll definitely still pretty far ahead for winning the league title.
Yeah, certainly. Manchester City playing some of their tougher league games already, and they have some relatively easier fixtures coming up, and hope they may be able to continue their undefeated start to the league and continue their presence in rare airs. With the Arsenal Invincible team, the only previous team in Premier League history to manage the whole season unbeaten. And that certainly will be a major storyline as long as Manchester City continues to win and win with the margins of victory that they have been. But shifting from England to Spain, the two teams we normally would associate with success in La Liga, Barcelona and Real Madrid, sort of having seasons that are going against expectations a little bit. Barcelona, with the loss of Neymar, expected to struggle a little bit, but they're sitting 10 points ahead of their rivals, Real Madrid, who was expected to sort of repeat their success that they had last year where they won La Liga and won the Champions League. So I think we'll start with Real Madrid. Jessica, they've certainly struggled this season. They drew against Atletico Madrid this weekend. They're not in a good position in their Champions League group. What do you think the sort of struggles are for Real Madrid?
I definitely think it's a lot of the defense. There's not a solid team back there. I also think that, every team kind of has that difficulty. Right now, Ronaldo's having a bit of a goal drought, but I think that after playing these next couple of games, they'll definitely be able to come together. I think it was more of, they had a rougher start to the season, but I don't think that that's really going to keep them from not doing well as the season progresses.
Certainly. But Barcelona is prospering from sort of their struggles a little bit. We touched on it a little bit. Neymar departing, and early in the season, Real Madrid in sort of the Spanish Copa two legs at the beginning of the season looked far and away better than Barcelona, but they sort of have turned a switch a little bit even after their big signing, Ousmane Dembele, injured himself. So really, Aaron, against expectations, Barcelona is succeeding this season. Do you think this sort of just cements the legacy of how good a player Lionel Messi is?
I definitely do. I mean, when Neymar left, everybody sort of counted Barca out for La Liga. They sort of, already scratched Real Madrid to win the league. But Barca have actually played really well without Neymar. Suarez has played well, and obviously Messi's been unbelievable this season. And even a guy like Paulinho, who they bought, a lot of people question, that signing, but he's been playing really well in the midfield for them. So definitely this sort of cements Lionel Messi and Barcelona's legacy as one of the best teams ever, that they can lose a guy like Neymar and still play the way they're playing.
Yeah, and Barcelona taking on in the league and in the Champions League, using that to sort of pivot this coming week, the fifth group stage match day, sort of deciding. It'll be a big week, certainly, for the major groups, the Tottenham, Dortmund, and Real Madrid group, as well as the Roma, Chelsea, and Atletico Madrid group, as those big matches sort of will be deciding who's moving on and who's not moving on. So we'll start. Tottenham, coming off their loss to Arsenal in the North London derby, plays a Dortmund team who's really been struggling for form this season. Aaron, this really is make or break for Dortmund. Do you think they will be able, they're at home, do you think they'll be able to save their Champions League season?
I'm not really sure because of how they've been struggling in the league and in the Champions League. They haven't really, cemented a starting 11 yet that really works, and that's really been bad for them. And I think, even though Tottenham struggled this weekend versus Arsenal, Harry Kane, Dele Alli, they were both coming off injuries, and I think having a game under their belt will definitely help. So I definitely predict Spurs to win this one.
And that would definitely be the final nail in the coffin for Dortmund and send them down to Europa League, which, it's unfortunate given the strength of that group, but one team had to go down, and unfortunate that it might be Dortmund. And a sort of similar fate will be facing a team in the Chelsea, Roma, Atletico Madrid group. Roma, off their big victory in the last match day against Chelsea, are sort of a surprising top team in the group right now, and they face off against Atletico Madrid this week. Jessica, do you think Roma will be able to keep this up, or do you think Atletico Madrid, sort of building maybe from the draw in the weekend, will be able to get a result and propel themselves to the top of the group?
I think Roma has really good form right now. I can definitely see them winning, especially considering, Atletico came from that draw. I think that either way, both those teams are going to have an easy advancement into the round of 16.
That's an interesting point there, and definitely Atletico Madrid still has to play Chelsea again, so they can certainly knock them down. And all those teams sort of sitting close, and the results in that group in particular has been very tight. Not a lot to separate those teams, and this week certainly will be a big indicator of which two teams will be advancing in the Champions League. We will have recaps of those games and other storylines in the Champions League next week on Studio 90, but that's all the time we have for this edition. Stick around for more Sports Zone after this. Hello and welcome back to Sports Zone. This is our NFL segment, Going for Two. I'm joined by Daniel and Justin. And as we sort of talked about last week on Going for Two, there were some big games in the NFC landscape this past weekend in the NFL. So I think that's where we'll start our conversation. Two teams who were coming into the weekend with only two losses, Minnesota and Los Angeles, faced off in Minnesota, and Case Keenum was able to get the Vikings a 24-7 victory with 17 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to sort of surge them to an 8-2 record and tie for second place in the NFC. So Daniel, do you think coming off of this victory, Minnesota sort of supplanted themselves? They've got a difficult division with New Orleans performing well as well. How do you assess Minnesota's chances in this NFC?
I think that they have a really high chance of getting a bye in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to get the 1 seed. I think the 2 seed is more realistic. But I think they've got to look at this Thanksgiving game as a big test. They're going to be playing the Lions, who are playing pretty well as well. And that will give them a chance to extend their division lead to about 3 games. But if they lose, it shortens the lead to 1 game. And not only that, it would hurt their chances of getting a bye in the playoffs. But right now you see Case Keenum playing great, and you see the Vikings defense being one of the best in the NFL. So if Case Keenum can keep it up, I think this team could threaten the Eagles or Panthers or Saints, some of the top dogs in the NFC.
Yeah, one of the teams you're talking about there, the New Orleans Saints, is I think who will jump next in a come-from-behind victory in the Superdome. They were able to top the Washington Redskins to win their 8th straight game after starting the season 0-2. So Justin, how has the Saints team sort of been able to put all this Adrian Peterson drama at the beginning of the season behind them to surge to this 8-game winning streak?
Well, I think you kind of said it. You addition by subtraction. You lose Adrian Peterson, you lose the distraction. Mark Ingram becomes the primary 1-2 down back. And then you got I can't pronounce the kid's name, but you got the other scat back there who's a great pass catcher. He caught a beautiful bobbled ball. Kamara, yeah, to tie it up. It's mostly the fact that the defense has improved. Cameron Jordan has played outstanding. They're getting sacks, which is covering up for their deficiencies in the secondary, which is great. And they're playing the run better, so they're forcing teams to pass. That combination has been lethal, and then Drew Brees has been Drew Brees. And Sean Payton has also been committed to running the football more to take that pressure off the 39-year-old quarterback.
Yeah, and the Saints there tied with Minnesota for the second best record in the NFC. Lots of good teams there in the NFC, strong teams. So that playoff race is shaping up to be very strong. A team who will play, as we tape Monday night, the Seattle Seahawks sort of are in an interesting situation. They're currently sitting in the 6th position in the NFC, but they were without Richard Sherman, who suffered a season-ending injury, and then this past week, Cam Chancellor also injured, and he will miss the rest of the season. So Daniel, 2 of their 2 players in the secondary injured for the Seahawks. How do you see this impacting the Seahawks down the stretch as they chase a playoff spot?
I think it's going to hurt them a lot. This Legion of Boone, which was the name that they called the secondary, was huge to winning a lot of football games, and now without 2 to 3 key pieces, they're going to have an issue in the secondary. Fortunately, they have Jeremy Lane, who's a competent backup cornerback, and they also have Byron Maxwell, who they just signed. He was actually part of the original Legion of Boom before he left for the Eagles a few years ago. But overall, I think the Seahawks might be in major trouble if they lose tonight to the Falcons. Both teams are currently chasing a wild card spot if they don't win the division. And the Seahawks also still have offensive line issues that they need to address.
Yeah, as you touched on, this Monday night game is really pivotal for both of those teams. Really can't afford to lose if either of them expect to make the playoffs. So it'll be a high-stakes Monday night game out there in Seattle. Sort of shifting from the NFC to the AFC, we'll talk about teams who are performing well to a team that's really struggled recently. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. This past weekend, losing in overtime to the previously only 1-win New York Giants. So, Justin, a couple weeks into the 5-6 weeks into the season, people were talking about Kansas City as the best team in the league. They were the last undefeated team in the league. Now 4 losses in 5 weeks. What sort of has changed for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that kind of got lost is that Eric Berry went down. So you have Marcus Peters, but the person commanding that secondary in the back is no longer there. He's no longer in the run support. He's no longer that ball hog back there. So, they've had a lot of secondary breakdowns, so that's been a big factor. And also, I think the scheme, they've been out-schemed. People are starting to pick up with their gimmicks. That little shuffle pass to Travis Kelce on first down to try to get a touchdown from, the 1-yard line. That's not working anymore. Teams are starting to figure that out. Also, the lack of a second receiver outside of Tyreek Hill has also hurt them. Tyreek Hill's great. He could run a fly like nobody else, but he's also not a good intermediate route runner. They don't have that. And when you could just take away Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, there's nobody else, Alex Smith trusts to throw the ball to. And also Kareem Hunt, they haven't gotten him the ball enough. I think he needs 25 to 30 touches. He's getting about 15 to 20. That's not enough for somebody as special as he is.
Yeah, Kansas City, but even despite all their troubles, still sitting atop of that AFC West is the Raiders, the Broncos, and even the Chargers to an extent, all struggling this season. Now, the Chargers were victorious this past week, which will pivot as we'll talk about the Buffalo Bills a little bit. 3 weeks ago, they were sitting at 5-2 and sort of a serious contender in this playoff chase. Now 3 consecutive losses. This past week they benched their starting quarterback Tyrod Taylor in favor of rookie Nate Peterson, who had no previous experience. He throws 5 interceptions Sunday. Now, Daniel, Buffalo is still in the thick of things because as the AFC is a little bit weaker, 5-5 is sort of in contention for that 6th spot in the wild card. But what do you make of? Do you think it was a smart decision for Buffalo to bench their starting quarterback when they're in the thick of a playoff race?
No, not at all. That's something that a team would do if they're really struggling and their season is basically over and they have a few games left. But the Bills were 5-4 and they were in position to take a wild card spot. And quite frankly, they still are in good position right now. But Tyrod Taylor he's a very good game manager. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he can extend plays, something that Nathan Peterman could not do. So Nathan Peterman showed up and was terrible. He had 5 interceptions in the first half, and he couldn't extend plays. And those are 2 things that we know Tyrod Taylor could do well. So I don't know how Tyrod Taylor is going to feel about returning to the Bills. Obviously, he's going to play as hard as he can with a lot of money on the line this offseason for him, but I don't know if the Bills are fully committed with him because I think what they were looking for was a real franchise quarterback. But they had to realize that Tyrod Taylor was their best option on their current roster, you know? Just because he might not be, you know, the next, you know, Aaron Rodgers or maybe a lower tier big time franchise quarterback, Phillip Rivers, doesn't mean that they should jump ship and just put an unheralded rookie into the thick of things when they're in a playoff hunt.
Yeah, definitely. It seemed like they were throwing Peterson into the deep end far before he was ready to swim. And even though they did bring in their new offensive coordinator in the offseason, and Tyrod Taylor may not necessarily fit the mold of what they were trying to do, he has proven over the past couple of years he is a more than competent NFL quarterback. So it's sort of interesting to see the treatment he's been getting there. And I think finally what we'll touch on before we sign off is the unheralded, unprecedented 3rd best team in the AFC right now, the Jacksonville Jaguars. A steady recipe of defense and feeding the ball to Leonard Fournette, who was back this past week. They were victorious and were able to push their record to 7-3. And Justin, do you think this formula of strong defense and keeping Blake Bortles in a cage and not letting him do anything is the recipe for success that will carry Jacksonville into the playoffs and potentially past the wild card round?
They'll get into the playoffs. I mean, past the wild card round in terms of they win the wild card game and then they play in the divisional round. Yeah, because we've seen the Houston Texans of the last 3 years. They would make the playoffs with no quarterback, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Brandon Weeden, whatever, whoever started for them. I don't know. They had some ARP dude always playing for them. And they would win the division. They would win the wild card game and then get smacked by the Patriots or the Steelers or the Chiefs or whatever. Yeah, the Jaguars are going to get there because I think their defense is good enough to beat the Buffalo Bills if they make the wild card, or the Ravens if they make the wild card, because the AFC is weak outside of the top 3 teams. Blake Bortles having to win a divisional game against the Steelers or Patriots or possibly Chiefs, if that defense plays out of its mind, yeah, they can win a divisional game. I don't see it. I don't trust Blake Bortles. He has played, I think, the best he'll ever play in the NFL at this stage, which is, 11 of 21 for 205 yards and a touchdown and 1 interception a game. But I think in the playoffs, when you need somebody to extend the play, or you need, to move the chains, because teams are going to force them to throw the football, I don't think he's going to be able to do that. I think we're going to see the Blake Bortles of the last couple of years where he's turning it over. He's not reading the defense of looking down on one, looking at his number 1 receiver, because that's just what the playoffs are. It's a different beast. But I'm happy for him. It's better than what he's been. And shout out to D.D. Westbrook, who, said he was going to get 200 yards and got 65. Good job. You were not close. Good job.
Yeah, so sort of the underlying theme from all this is that the AFC outside of the Patriots and Steelers seems to be very weak, whereas the NFC, as we sort of talked about at the beginning of the segment, shaping up to be very strong. A lot of good teams there that aren't going to necessarily get the first round bye, so we'll see potentially shaping up for some good playoff matchups out there in the NFC, as sort of Daniel alluded. But we will recess for Thanksgiving break, and we will break down all of the Week 11 action when we come back next week. Thank you. This is all the time we have for this edition of Going for Two, but stick around for more Sports Zone after this.
Hi, welcome back to Sports Zone with your favorite baseball segment, Getting to Third Base. Today, fortunately, Viva could not join us, but we're here with me, David Malenberg, and Kristen. I'm just going to talk about a few off-season moves going forward. First, I'll talk about the Giancarlo Stanton trade, proposed Stanton trade. The Giants made an official offer to the Marlins to trade for Giancarlo Stanton and D. Gordon. They offered Joe Panik along with their two top prospects, Tyler Beede and Chris Shaw, in exchange for Stanton and D. Gordon. First, I want to stress that we don't know the salaries that would be moved for this trade. So if San Francisco is willing to take on most of the salary, then my opinion on this trade offer would be better. But until we know that, I have no comment really. To me, this looks like a really poor trade for the Marlins. They're not really getting much that they can use right now. They're trying to build up down the road, not exactly right now. And I feel that, getting some players that could develop into better pieces over a longer course of time would be better. Not to mention, again, since we don't know the salaries, we don't know if they're retaining any. If they are, then they should just hang up the phone, really. They could use some better deals. And now throwing the ball across the diamond to Kristen for this next trade rumor.
So a little bit of news broke today on the front of the New York Mets. They might possibly be looking into acquiring Ian Kinsler to play second base a little bit, which I don't think necessarily is the smartest move that the Mets can make right now. They do have T.J. Rivera and Wilmer Flores and occasionally Asdrubal Cabrera all platooning at second base right now. T.J. Rivera is coming off an injury. He doesn't know if he's going to be ready for opening day, but the Mets are banking on the fact that he'll be ready at the very latest by July. So having him back is going to be really crucial. He provides a really strong bat for the Mets in their lineup. So as long as he can come back, and as long as Flores and Cabrera can pick up the slack in the time that he might not be back, I don't think it's smart for them to acquire another second baseman. I think it's kind of filled there, and I think Flores especially will be able to pick up the slack until Rivera comes back. And I think what the Mets should be doing is definitely focusing on acquiring a potential first baseman, because as we've seen, Dominic Smith, who the Mets called up at the end of last season, he really didn't impress very much. Recently, Mets general manager Sandy Alderson came out and said that he doesn't think that Dom Smith is going to be ready to go for opening day. He's not in the best shape. So I think the Mets should really be focusing their energy instead of acquiring Ian Kinsler to look and acquire someone else who can take the role of Dom Smith.
And just to finish it out today, some news from across the Pacific Ocean in Japan with Japanese star Shohei Ohtani attempted to move to the MLB. Right now, there's been a breakup in the posting agreement between the Japanese League and the American League, causing for some speculation that Ohtani won't be moved. We don't have an official word on that yet. The deadline for that is supposedly put down for 8 p.m. tonight by the Players Association. But if Ohtani comes over, it's going to be great to watch him. He hits triple digits with his fastball, has great strikeout numbers, only some mediocre walks. And as a hitter, he profiles really well in right or left field, plays some good defense, and he's been known to slug a few runs out of the park. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him. Hope he comes over. It'd be great to watch him. Just hopefully not to the Yankees. And that's all the time we have this week. This Getting to Third Base, and we'll be right back on SportsZone.
And welcome back to SportsZone. This is our NBA segment, Throwing It Up. I'm joined by Daniel and Justin. So we'll first start off by talking about the Celtics. Obviously, they've had this big winning streak, and they had a huge win over the Warriors. Jaylen Brown played a great game. They're playing great defensively. So, Daniel, what do you think is the key to this winning streak so far?
Again, their defense. As we mentioned last segment, their defense has really been powering them this whole season. They held the Golden State Warriors to 88 points. The Golden State Warriors had been averaging over 110 points per game the whole season and really struggled against the Celtics. And it's surprising. You wouldn't expect a team with Kyrie Irving as your point being the best defensive team in the NBA, but it looks like they've really locked in and realized that they're going to have to focus on that side of the ball, especially with Gordon Hayward out, which would affect their scoring.
Yeah, you talk about definitely Kyrie Irving. He's improved his defense this season. And just an interesting dynamic right now in the Eastern Conference. A lot of surprise teams who are doing well that we wouldn't really expect to do well. So, Justin, who's your biggest surprise so far in the Eastern
Definitely
Conference?
the Pistons. What are they, like top 2, top 3 in the conference? Reggie Jackson's finally healthy, so he's starting to come back to that Reggie Jackson form, and that contract's not looking as bad as it was last year. You also have the addition of Avery Bradley. He's bringing that leadership from the Celtics over there. He's playing really well, shooting the 3-ball really efficiently. And then Tobias Harris has emerged as the #1 scorer on the team, averaging about 20 points a game. And they really need that one go-to guy, because even when Reggie, that year they made the playoffs, they didn't have that one go-to scorer who can kind of match up with the LeBrons and the Giannis's. He's not on that level, but he's playing efficiently. And the biggest storyline from the Pistons is the fact that Andre Drummond is actually a serviceable big man down the stretch. He went from 35% last year shooting free throws, so now he's at 65%. He's shooting them with confidence. He's playable in the fourth quarter. He's playing better defense. He knows his role. He's a pick and roll, rebounding type dude. He's not looking to post up. They've kind of figured out what they want to be as a team, and that's really opened it up and allowed them to soar up the standings early on.
Yeah, you definitely talk about the balance in the Pistons attack right now. It's looking really good, and we know historically Piston teams have always had that sort of balanced, good defense that have propelled them to victories. But another big storyline in the East so far has been the Philadelphia 76ers. Trust the process is going well. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons playing great. So, Daniel, what do you think has been key so far, this sort of Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid combo?
Yeah, honestly, I think the key is you drafted, 2 of the best players basically available in the past 4 or 5 years. You've got Ben Simmons, who's really a transcendent talent. He's a 6'10" point guard, basically, who's averaging 17, 8, and 8 just about, which is incredible. And you've got Joel Embiid, who, when healthy, could be one of the best big men in the league. In fact, just in LA, against the Clippers and the Lakers, he completely dominated, including a 46-point performance against the Lakers. I think they're still trying to figure it out. I think Ben and Joel can actually play better together. They've only had 17 games together as teammates, and I think they could continue to grow.
Yeah, you talk about Joel Embiid versus the LA Lakers dropping 40 points, and you got Ben Simmons, you got Joel Embiid, but you also have Markelle Fultz, who's currently injured. First overall pick last year is going to be coming back soon. But moving on to the Western Conference, not too many surprises so far in the conference. A lot of the teams we expected to do well are doing well. So, Justin, for you, what do you think is the biggest storyline in the Western Conference right now?
Well, I have 2. I think one, how efficiently the Grizzlies are playing. Their bench has really picked it up. Tyreek Evans is averaging 17 points a game, and he's improved his 3-point shot. So they finally have that spacing that they've always been looking for ever since they started grit and grind. So that's been a good storyline. And the other one is the fact that Oklahoma City, despite their defensive rating and offensive efficiency, just can't win close games, which is surprising. I think that speaks more to Billy Donovan's offensive scheme than anything, but their stats show a different record than what they should be. They should be a pretty dominant team. It just doesn't show right now.
Definitely interesting that OKC are struggling down the stretch when you've got guys like Carmelo Anthony, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook, who are known for being good in the fourth quarter, not being able to close out games. So just very quickly, I'll throw it over to both of you. Obviously, it's very early in the season, but I'll start with you, Justin. Who do you think is the front runner for MVP right now?
Giannis Antetokounmpo. The man does not have a jump shot and is still able to score 29, 30 points a game. Gets into the paint at will, leading his team in steals, blocks. I think he's second in rebounds again. I thought he should have been in the MVP category last year, leading his team in all 5 of those major statistical categories. His team's underperforming, but I feel like once they get good familiarity with Bledsoe back in, they'll figure it out. Plus, they still have Jabari Parker coming back. That'll be a great addition. He'll probably come off the bench, and that's a 20-point story coming off that they don't have right now. I think they're the biggest threat in the East, even more so than Boston to beat Cleveland.
Yeah, definitely Giannis propelling that Milwaukee team right now. So, Daniel, who would be your MVP frontrunner right now?
I've got to go with James Harden. He's averaging about 32 points per game and 10 assists, which is remarkable. He played phenomenally without Chris Paul in the lineup for the past month, And unlike Giannis, he's actually been leading his team to victory at a much higher pace. They're a top 3 team in the NBA right now, and I believe they're going to finish as a 2 seed in the West with a much better record than the Bucks in the East.
Yeah, definitely Giannis and Harden, 2 of the main frontrunners right now for MVP. Another guy I'll throw into the mix is Kristaps Porzingis, who's averaging 30 points right now. Obviously, as a Knicks fan, I'll say that, but he's been playing great so far. But that's all we have right now for throwing it up, and more SportsZone after this.
Hi, and welcome back to SportsZone, to everyone's favorite segment, Thumbs Up, Thumbs Down, where we go over the good, bad, and the ugly of the sports world and our lives. So to start off today, I'll give a thumbs up to the Steelers for beating the Titans in a mashing. Really good to see Antonio Brown break out for 3 touchdowns again. Good to see Ben back to his old playing form. Want to give a thumbs up to the winter meetings coming up for baseball. GM meetings are done now. Almost every capacity for every organization is filled except for manager for the Yankees, so that should be fun to watch. Same time, thumbs down to the MLB Players Association. Really holding up negotiation when it comes to the posting system between the Japanese Baseball League and the American one. So we can't see Shohei Ohtani pitch or hit. Thumbs up to him, though. Japanese Babe Ruth, really looking forward to him signing, even if it's with the Yankees. That will suck. Thumbs down to the Yankees for people wanting to sign with them.
Thumbs down because I have class where normally we do thumbs, but thumbs up that I actually can be there today. I'm a lot because I haven't been here in a while. Thumbs down to the New York Mets. We sucked this year. Our pitching was supposed to be the best in the MLB, and it really was not. Injuries killed us. Thumbs down to the New York Giants as well. We're 2-8. Come on, we can do better than that. Thumbs up that it's Thanksgiving break. That's exciting. I'm going home tomorrow. Thumbs middle, that's like the end of the semester. I can't believe that the semester's gone so fast. Yeah, and that's it.
All right, so I'll first throw a thumbs up to it being Thanksgiving break. I'm very excited to go home. So thumbs up for that. Thumbs up for Man United winning 4-1 this weekend versus Newcastle. Paul Pogba, Zlatan Ibrahimovic coming back, which was very good to see. Let's see, what else? Thumbs up to me because I'm going to the Knicks game on Wednesday. Kristen's also going to be there, so that's going to be pretty fun. I was going to say something. Oh, yeah. I guess thumbs middle to President Trump tweeting about LeVar Ball. I really don't know what to make of that. That LeVar Ball has gotten so famous that the president is tweeting about him. I don't know what to make of our society. That's a thing. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Thumbs up to the Boston Celtics for continuing the win streak. Now at 15 games, they beat the Golden State Warriors over the past week, which was an impressive win. Obviously without Gordon Hayward, one of their key players. Thumbs down to the Kansas City Chiefs. They looked really good to start off the season 5-0, and they've lost 4 out of their last 5 games, including to the New York Giants, who are terrible. So that's obviously something concerning for the Chiefs looking forward. Thumbs up to the New England Patriots, who had a dominant win against the Raiders. I thought it would be a closer game because Oakland obviously had a couple losses without their starting QB, Derek Carr, and I thought they were going to pick things up together, but looks like the Patriots are still the Patriots. Thumbs down to the Clippers. I expected better from them coming this season. I thought they'd make the playoffs, but they've lost a lot lately. I think they've lost either every game or almost every game for the past 8 or 9 games that they've played. We'll see how they do as the season progresses.
So thumbs up for Thanksgiving this week. That's nice. I'm really excited to go home, and I'm very thankful for SportsZone. Thumbs up to Champions League happening this week. Thumbs up to Peru for qualifying to the World Cup. That was really well deserved. I think they did it in one of the hardest conferences you can play in. And thumbs up to MLS playoffs starting this week. Sounders are playing Houston tomorrow. Hopefully they can get a win. And yeah, here's Kristen.
All right, I want to throw a thumbs up to everyone that's here today. In the past, sometimes we've given everybody the day off for Thanksgiving break, but you guys are all here because you wanted to be here, so I'm really happy that you're all here, and it's great to be here and doing this right before we all go home. So thumbs up to Thanksgiving break. Thumbs up to the Giants for getting a win yesterday, their second win of the season. It's actually a thumbs down because they've had a really horrible season, but thumbs up that they got more than one win, I guess. Thumbs up to the Knicks for having a winning record. Thumbs up to the fact that I'm going to the game. I'll be at Madison Square Garden in like less than 48 hours. Aaron is going too, so maybe we'll run into each other there. So looking forward to that. And that's all I have today. Here's Justin.
Yep, don't want that. Vince will get mad. So thumbs up. I found a penny, so thumbs up to that. Thumbs up to the Knicks. They're decent this year, which is fun to watch. Thumbs up to the Patriots. They won. Thumbs up for Thanksgiving because I like cooked food and not my cooking. My mom's cooking is a lot better. Thumbs up to LeVar Ball and Donald Trump because we've hit peak 2017 now, so that's always fun. Can't wait to see what 2018 brings, or maybe not, I don't know. And thumbs up to everybody here. Everybody's great. Vince is here to close it all out.
All right. I'll start off with a thumbs down. We've had a bit of a struggle with this thumbs segment, getting it off the ground, but we were able to do that. So we persevere here at SportsZone. I'll throw a thumbs down to ATV working in the Student Media Trivia Challenge. We blew it. We were in position to beat Photo Collective and everyone else. All we had to do was be very smart in the final trivia round, but some genius decided that it would be a good idea to wager 23 points in the final round, and we wound up losing. There's no logical explanation, so the only thing to do is blame Aaron. So thumbs down to Aaron for that. ATV just blew it. It's shameful, more shameful than the Falcons blowing a 28-point lead in the Super Bowl. ATV's choke in the Student Media Challenge was tragic. I don't know how we'll recover, but I recovered because the next day, thumbs up to Arsenal beating Tottenham in the North London derby. Shkrofan Mustafi marking his return from injury with a goal and just a dominating performance. Alexis Sanchez on the score sheet as well, reminding everyone that North London is red, as it has been for the last 20 years, and that is the way it should be. Thumbs up to the Steelers. They were victorious on Thursday night, topping 30 points for the first time this season, so their high-powered offense finally got off the ground. Martavis Bryant is looking more integrated in what they're doing, and I think a more promising sign is that the defense in the first game without Joe Hayden after he broke his leg, they were able to get 4 interceptions off Marcus Mariota, showing that the secondary and Cody Sensabaugh can sort of be a good replacement to Joe Hayden, at least until he gets back. Thumbs up to Thanksgiving. Excited to be home for the holidays and sort of get away from everything for a little bit. Thumbs up to everyone here at SportsZone. I hope they all have a happy holidays. Thanksgiving holidays. We'll be back before the whole, Christmas, that holiday season. But I think that's all for me. So I'll thank Kristen and Daniel and David and Aviva and Jessica and Justin and Aaron, even though he did ruin Student Media Trivia Challenge for ATV. But better luck next time. We hope everyone watching has a happy Thanksgiving, and this has been SportsZone.
Answer wrong though, so that's just.
I got 1. I got 3 right, fam.
To be fair, for the one that was like the second smallest country, I said Panama.
It was a safe bet.
I said, I was like,
guys,
guys, it's a Central American country. They're like, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, I'm bet you it's a Central American, and it wasn't. It just wasn't.
One of the small islands. Yeah. Are you just training ninjas? Because she just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, because I really think that like made me so excited. I was like, guys, like I'm pretty sure that's like a very common spike.
Where did you come from?
I was just back there.
Yeah.
I was doing,
Like no noise.
Yeah, they're like, what is that? First of all, how do you not know what Final Jeopardy is? And second of all, who bets 23 out of 24? We should have done the negative thing.
You just do 2.
You should have spoken up. We should have done the negative thing.
I was like very vocal on your side of the table. I'm in the doghouse.
You did not have the ear.
On top of their Champions League group, Jessica, what is going on with Real Madrid? Why do you think they're struggling as much as they have been?
I definitely think it has to do a lot with the dynamic that they have on offense, and also defensively. I feel like there's not a solid team there. It's really easy for them to like not. I'm sorry, I couldn't form my thought.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
Start with like pivot. Well,
Jess, I wasn't even listening. Were you paying attention?
I was, but I was trying to formulate my thought, and then it wasn't going. It didn't come out the way I wanted it to come out. It was bad.
Okay, I think I'll just like start like.
I probably shouldn't have said. I'm sorry.
No.
Who gives?
I was gonna say we're gonna really apologize for swearing here.
Oh, that's true.
So Manchester City sort of played some of their tougher fixtures, and so going forward, they're in rare air, obviously.
I'm sorry. I don't know why. All right, we'll redo that.
Okay.
I don't know why I just started. I don't know why I just started laughing.
Yeah, certainly Manchester City played some of their tougher games and sort of is.
Oh my God.
All right, one more time.
I like see you were like trying not to laugh.
I don't know why. Okay. All right. We're good.
I think he's just laughing. He's realizing how silly it is.
All right. We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. Certainly, Manchester City's definitely played some of their tougher fixtures in the league, and coming up in the festive fixture.
You were laughing. You were literally laughing.
I was trying not to look at you. And
I wasn't until you
really
started. I literally wasn't until you started laughing. Oh my God.
Okay.
All right. This is
It's like if we don't get.
What time is it? What time
it's
is
like
it?
7.
It's like 7:04.
Jesus
Okay.
Christ.
Over to Spain, the two teams you would normally associate with success there, Barcelona and Real Madrid, are sort of having differing seasons so far. Barcelona sort of against expectations is sitting atop the league, and Real Madrid, who sort of was expected to...
Okay, I'm sorry. I can't. For some reason, I'm just not with it today. I literally can't do it. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is.
First trivia night, now this.
I'm sorry. You guys can just do it yourselves. Like I'm just like I don't know. I'm rage quitting.
No,
I can't.
Aaron, stay.
No. I literally
just
can't do this right
Just
now.
sit.
All right.
Because they can't score enough points.
I think the NFC playoffs are going to be really interesting.
I just don't.
I see a lot of good teams
I
out
also
there.
just don't trust Blake Bortles.
don't.
I feel like at some point he's going to go back to being Blake Bortles and just.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got a general idea.
I hate you, Adam.
All right, we good?
No.
He didn't even call you by name. He didn't even call you by your correct name.
Yeah, I
That's
said
how
Adam.
angry he is.
Wait, what?
Nothing, Adam.
Don't worry about it.
No.
Don't worry about it, Adam.
It's his trivia name, Adam now.
I was a beast in that trivia, okay?
Scoreboard.
I mean, we all kind of sucked in trivia, so because we did lose, so we were all
It's
at
not my
fault.
fault they bet like 23 out of the 24, so.
Yeah, that was a poor judgment.
It was 25.
Was it?
We finished with 2 points.
What's better than 24, Aaron? 25.
25.
25.
From
You know what's
SpongeBob.
funnier than
That's from
25?
SpongeBob.
26. All right. We're good to go.
Oh God.
Wow, first time doing it this season. Okay, so thumbs up for to me for first time doing thumbs. No, what?
Just David was still in shock.
Oh.
He was like still.
I'm so sorry. You weren't like mad, so I was like, what? Did I do something?
Oh, just.
Ask him if we should start over. Keep going.
What should we do, Vince?
Let's just start over.
Oh God.
I'm sorry, you went like this.
No, that's my fault.